Welcome to the deep dive. Imagine this. Locations on a map aren't just, random dots,
Hmm.
but they're cosmically linked to you, influencing your life in, well, pretty profound ways.
Right.
And maybe, just maybe, pointing you towards where you might find love.
It's a really intriguing concept. The system we're diving into today is called astrocartography.
Okay.
You'll also hear it called locational astrology, maybe relocation astrology, or even astrolocality.
Lots of names.
Yeah, but at its heart, it's basically the astrology of place.
And for this deep dive, which we've tailored specifically for you, we've pulled together a whole stack of articles, some social media insights exploring this idea.
Hmm.
We're going to unpack how it works, touch on its origins a bit, and really focus on what the sources are saying about using this unique map to, find love or uncover other significant places for you.
Exactly, and that core idea is just fascinating. You take your natal chart, that unique snapshot of the heavens, the exact moment you were born, and you map those planetary energies onto the entire globe. It shows you where those planetary influences were strongest, hitting those key points or angles around the world in your birth time.
Okay, so we're talking about taking my personal birth chart, my cosmic DNA, and projecting it onto the planet. How does that even work visually? What does this map actually look like?
So your astrocartography map, it literally overlays your natal chart onto a world map.
Okay,
What you'll see are these longitudinal lines stretching across it, north to south.
got it.
These lines mark the places where specific planets were aligned with one of the four key astrological points,
Yeah.
the angles right at your birth location at the moment you were born.
I think one of the sources mentioned that while astrology itself is ancient, this specific mapping thing is actually fairly modern.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the underlying principles definitely come from traditional astrology. The system of astrocartography, as we widely use it today, was actually discovered and trademarked by Jim Lewis back in the 1970s.
Ah, okay, so relatively recent then.
Yeah, modern tech really helped bring this kind of mapping system to life for everyone.
Got it. So these lines appear on the map. How close do you actually have to be to a line to feel its energy? Is it right on top of it?
Well, the map is crisscrossed with these lines, right? And the sources pretty much agree. The closer you are physically to a line, the more intensely you're likely to experience that specific planet's energy.
Makes sense.
They talk about an orb of influence, meaning the energy kind of extends outward from the line.
Okay, like a zone.
Exactly. One source gives a pretty wide range, suggesting maybe up to 600 miles. Astro.com is a bit more conservative. They mention around 250 kilometers, which is roughly under 50 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So being right on the line is the most potent, definitely. But the influence does radiate outwards.
And if someone listening wanted to see their own map, how would they go about getting one?
Yeah, the most common way, this came up across the sources, is using online tools.
Mm.
Features like the AstroClick Travel on astro.com are really popular starting points. But to generate your personal map, you absolutely need accurate birth data. That means your exact date, time, and place of birth.
And the time is crucial, right?
Oh, incredibly. The sources are really clear on this. Having a precise birth time is absolutely essential for getting an accurate map. Even a few minutes can shift things.
Wow. Okay, so get that birth certificate out. But before you even look at the map itself, there's something foundational you must do, isn't there? Something really important.
Yes. This is probably the single most emphasized point across all the material we looked at.
Mm.
You have to understand your natal chart first.
Okay, start with the basics.
Absolutely. Your astrocartography lines, they don't exist in a vacuum, and they definitely don't override your birth chart. What they do is activate the potential that's already within your birth chart.
Oh, okay.
So let's say you have a planet that's particularly challenging in your birth chart. Maybe it's a tough sign for it. Or making difficult connections, what astrologers call aspects, to other planets. Or even based on its fundamental condition, like its essential dignity or the sect of your chart. Is it happier in a day chart or a night chart?
Right.
Well, then, when you go to a location on that planet's line, you're likely to experience the challenges or the lessons associated with that planet as it functions for you in your unique chart,
Right.
even if that planet is generally seen as, beneficial, like Jupiter or Venus.
So it's not a magic fix. If Venus is having a hard time in my chart, moving to a Venus line won't suddenly make love easy.
It might bring love opportunities, but it could activate the challenges associated with your Venus too.
Yeah.
Your natal chart provides the absolutely indispensable context for how that line will feel for you.
That makes so much sense. It's not just this planet equals this outcome, but this planet plus how it is in my chart equals this potential outcome in this location.
Exactly. It's a really personal system, which is why just looking at generic descriptions isn't enough.
Okay, so we've got the map. We understand the natal chart is the key context. What are we actually looking at on the map? You mentioned lines connected to 4 angles.
Right. The map shows these planetary lines, and they correspond to where that planet aligned with one of the 4 cardinal points of the compass from your birthplace projected onto the globe.
Cardinal points like north, south, east, west?
Sort of, but in astrological terms. They are the ascendant, AS, the imum coeli, IC, the midheaven, MC, and the descendant, DC.
Okay, let's break those down quickly. What does each angle represent, starting with the AS?
The AS, or ascendant line, that's all about you, yourself.
Okay.
It relates to your identity, your physical body, how you come across, and how you personally express or embody the energy of the planet on that line. It's very self-focused. It can impact you physically, mentally, emotionally, how others perceive your immediate presence.
And the IC, what's that one?
The IC, or imum coeli line, imum coeli means bottom of the sky. That's your foundation, your home, your roots, your family, your private life. Being on an IC line often brings the energy of that planet right into your sense of belonging, your domestic environment, your inner world.
Yeah.
It's where you might feel most centered or perhaps challenged through that planetary energy in a very private way.
Then the MC, midheaven. That sounds like up high.
Exactly. The MC, or midheaven line, is your most public point. It relates to your career, your reputation, social standing, your public role in the world.
So work stuff.
Work stuff, public recognition, how you're seen professionally. The planet on this line really influences your career path or public life opportunities in that location.
Which leaves the DC descendant.
The DC, or descendant line, is directly opposite the ascendant, and this one is the primary relationship angle.
Okay. This is key for the love topic.
Definitely key. It signifies who you are likely to encounter, what qualities you're drawn to in other people, and how partners, close friends, or even the broader community might impact you significantly in that location.
So you're saying if I have, let's say, a moon line on the AS is going to feel really different from a moon line on the IC.
Precisely, yeah. A moon ES line, based on the sources, might mean your emotional experiences are very much felt within your own self, your identity. It could influence your physical well-being or how you emotionally present yourself.
Okay.
A moon AC line, though, would ground that emotional moon energy firmly in your home and family life. That location might be where your emotional security and sense of belonging are really strongly tied to your domestic situation, for better or worse, depending on your moon.
Okay, this is clicking. And this brings us perfectly, actually, to something a lot of people look at these maps for: finding love and relationships. What insights did the sources offer specifically on that angle?
Yeah, this is definitely a popular application, and the material we reviewed gives us some pretty clear pointers. One source even broke it down into what it called 5 secrets for using astrocartography to find love.
Ooh, all right, cosmic secrets. Let's hear them. What's the first one?
First, and maybe the most obvious one, is looking at your Venus lines.
Makes sense. Planet of love.
Exactly. Since Venus rules love, connection, partnership, attraction, harmony, its lines are considered incredibly significant for finding romance. The sources suggest many people report meeting significant partners or having major romantic developments on or near their Venus lines.
But that natal chart caveat again, right?
Always. They stress your natal Venus placement is crucial. If your Venus is, say, heavily aspected by Saturn or Pluto in your birth chart, the love found on its line might come with serious lessons, responsibilities, or intensity. It activates your Venus.
Got it. Okay, what's the second place to look on the map for love?
Second, look closely at your descendant lines, the DC lines we just talked about.
The relationship angle.
Precisely. Remember, the DC is the relationship angle. The sources describe these lines as showing, and I like this phrase, who your people are and where they are in the world.
Oh, I like that too.
Yeah, they indicate locations where you're highly likely to have influential interactions and form significant relationships. And yes, that absolutely includes romantic ones.
So Venus is maybe the energy or style of love, and the DC is the arena where relationships happen.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. They often work together powerfully.
Okay, what's number 3?
The third point involves relocated charts. This is a slightly different technique. Beyond the main global map, you can generate a specific birth chart as if you were born in a new city you're considering moving to or visiting.
Okay. Like recasting the chart.
Exactly. And if planets that are significant for relationships in your natal chart, like, say, the planet that rules your 7th house, or Venus itself shift into your 7th house, the traditional house of partnership, in that relocated chart, The sources indicate that location is likely to really activate relationship activity for you. They also mention, kind of briefly, that certain local space lines in that specific area can be particularly social or connection-oriented too.
Local space.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, we should definitely circle back to those. But sticking with the 5 love secrets for a moment, what's number 4?
Fourth is about something called parans, which are also known as latitude crossings. These are a bit different. They occur where one planetary line crosses another planetary line, not an angle, at a specific latitude, so they form more like horizontal points or lines on the map.
Okay, so line crossings.
Right. And the sources say these can be particularly potent spots. They can significantly impact the relationship energy of any place along that specific latitude line. They can indicate where profound connections or even, fated love stories might happen.
Wow.
But there's a big note of caution the sources made very clear here.
Uh-oh.
Well, just that while some free online maps might show these things called latitude crossings, they might not be true or accurately calculated parans, which involve planetary risings and settings simultaneously.
Ah, technical detail.
Yeah. For reliable paran mapping, professional astrological software is often recommended. So just be aware of that if you're looking at free maps.
That's a really important distinction. Free tools are great starting points, but maybe not for the super fine details like that. Okay, what's the final love secret? Number 5.
The fifth secret is looking at the lunar nodes, specifically the north node and south node lines.
The karmic points.
Exactly. The nodes represent points related to destiny, karma, your life path. The north node relates to your path forward, your growth, your destiny in this lifetime. The south node relates more to past life connections, familiar energies, things you're moving away from but might still draw you in. Locations on your node lines, particularly the north node lines, are highlighted as places where you're likely to experience fated encounters. And yes, these can absolutely include significant, maybe even destiny-driven relationships.
So that's quite a toolkit. Venus lines, DC lines, planets moving into the 7th in relocated charts, parans for those fated latitude stories with the accuracy note, and the nodes for karmic connections.
Right.
But the sources also said something interesting, didn't they? About your specific love line maybe not being Venus. How does that work?
Yeah, and this just circles right back to the absolute importance of your natal chart. While Venus and the DC are, let's say, universal relationship indicators, your personal key relationship planet might be different. It depends on things like which planet rules your 7th house of partnership in your chart.
Okay.
Or maybe other planets are strongly placed there. So one source shared an example of someone meeting their husband on their Mercury line, which isn't typically the first place you'd look for romance.
Huh. Mercury. Communication planet.
Yeah. Maybe their connection was highly intellectual or communicative. Others might connect deeply on sun lines, finding partners who help them shine. It truly is about understanding how your unique chart is wired for connection and partnership.
And I think I even saw them mention some, well, practical, maybe even a bit cheeky applications of this, like using it remotely.
Yes. One source did briefly mention the idea of remote activation, which could include something like setting your dating app location preference to a city that happens to be on one of your beneficial relationship lines, like a Venus DC line, just to see who you match with there, who pops up.
That's brilliant, like casting a cosmic net.
Kind of. It's about intentionally engaging with the energy of a place,
Yeah.
even if you're not physically there yet, sort of tuning into its frequency.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, so beyond finding love, which is obviously a big draw, what else can these maps tell us? What about some of the other major planetary lines and concepts?
Yeah, absolutely. The map includes lines for every planet in your chart, and each carries its general symbolic associations, always filtered through how that planet expresses itself in your specific natal chart.
Right. Always the filter. Let's touch on a few key ones. What about Jupiter? Everyone seems to want a little Jupiter energy in their life, right? Good fortune.
Oh, definitely. Jupiter lines are generally seen as very fortunate locations.
Yeah.
Auspicious. They're associated with blessings, luck, expansion, abundance, higher learning, success, sometimes wealth. Sources often describe them as places where things just seem to flow more easily. Opportunities might arise.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, one source even noted that sometimes people prefer Jupiter lines over sun lines for attracting wealth or abundance, because Jupiter can bring the blessings without necessarily putting you quite so intensely in the public spotlight as the sun might.
Interesting trade-off. Okay, speaking of the sun.
Sun lines. These are considered places where you are meant to shine, really step into your vitality.
Okay.
These locations relate to leadership, visibility, being seen, expressing your core identity, boosting your confidence. They'd be fantastic for career success or public recognition.
But maybe a downside?
Potentially.
Oh.
One source cautioned that constantly being on or in the spotlight on a sun line could possibly lead to burnout for some people, depending on their nature and, again, their natal sun.
Makes sense. You need downtime, too. What about
Yeah.
Mercury lines? Communication.
Exactly. Mercury lines are seen as vibrant for communication of all kinds: writing, speaking, learning, teaching. Also good for intellectual pursuits, networking, technology, social stimulation.
So busy places.
Can be, yeah. They can make a place feel really lively and connected, amplifying interaction. Mercury can also kind of boost or modify the energy of other lines that might be near or crossing.
Okay. And then there's the more intense one, Pluto. What about Pluto lines?
Right, Pluto lines. These are definitely associated with intensity. Transformation, power dynamics, both personal power and encountering external power structures, death and rebirth cycles, deep psychological work uncovering secrets.
Sounds heavy.
It can be, yeah. These can be profoundly transformative or healing locations, places where you really confront deep truths. But because of that intensity, sources often suggest caution about living directly on a Pluto line long term. The potential for constant upheaval, power struggles, or facing your deepest fears might be overwhelming for some. Great for short-term deep work, maybe, but maybe not for settling down permanently.
Good to know. So those are some of the main planetary lines connected to the angles. What about other elements on the map, like those local space lines you mentioned earlier?
Yes, local space lines. These are different from the main astrocartography lines we've been discussing. They don't relate to the angles ASMC, etc. in the same way. Instead, they radiate out from a specific point, like your birthplace, or maybe your current location if you calculate it from there, in all directions on a local map.
Okay, so more zoomed in.
Exactly. They show how planetary energies influence a more immediate geographical area, like within a city or a region around you. They're useful for finding specific spots or directions within a smaller area that align with certain energies.
How would you use that?
Well, sources suggest they can be great for finding, say, a park in the direction of your Venus line for relaxation, or maybe setting up your home office in the direction of your Jupiter line for abundance. They can even potentially help balance energies if you find yourself living near a difficult main astrocartography line. You could maybe spend more time in areas pointed to by more harmonious local space lines.
It's interesting, like fine-tuning your local environment. And what happens where the main lines cross each other on the big map?
Right, where multiple astrocartography lines intersect. These are often called crocking points.
Okay.
The sources refer to these as potential cosmic power zones, places of really concentrated, amplified energy from all the planets and angles involved in that crossing.
So intense spots again.
Can be very intense, yeah,
Hmm.
for good or ill, potentially. They
Yeah.
might indicate locations of significant life events, intense experiences, and maybe spiritual significance, or sometimes even feeling connected to past life themes, depending on the planets involved. Definitely worth noting on your map.
Is it possible for a place to have, well, no major lines near it, like a blank spot?
Yes, absolutely. You might find what some sources call neutral places. These are locations where none of your major planetary lines, angular lines, or maybe even significant crossings are strongly influencing the area.
What's the vibe there?
One perspective is that they can offer a kind of blank slate, feel very low-key, maybe less pressure, perhaps good for a relaxing vacation where you just want to chill out.
Okay.
But the potential downside is they might feel stagnant or lacking strong energetic activation if you're looking for growth or dynamism for long-term living. However, it was also noted that even if you're physically in a neutral location, you can still potentially connect with or use that remote activation idea to access energies from other more active places on your map.
It sounds like a really complex, layered system. How do you recommend someone actually use this information without getting totally overwhelmed or making rash decisions?
It absolutely is multi-layered, and that's a key takeaway. The sources consistently describe astrocartography more as a system of correlations, maybe like a language you learn to read for your life's journey. It's not really a rigid cause and effect system where go here, this will happen. The understanding is more that the celestial patterns reflect possibilities, potentials, energetic themes. They don't force your path or guarantee outcomes. Free will is still very much in play.
And there were some important cautions, especially about just using the free online tools, right?
Yes, that's crucial. While free online tools like AstroClick Travel are fantastic for exploration, for getting an introduction, for seeing the basic lines, the sources strongly caution against making major life decisions like uprooting your life and moving based solely on these tools.
Why not?
Well, partly because of those nuances we talked about, like accurately mapping parents or really understanding the condition of the planets in your chart.
Hmm.
For deeper analysis, for personalized insights, for weighing the pros and cons of different lines interacting, consulting a professional astrologer who uses dedicated software and understands your full natal chart is highly recommended. And ultimately, this system is a tool. It's meant to add to your understanding, but the sources also stress it works best when combined with your own introspection, your research about the actual place, and trusting your own intuition, your gut feeling about a location. Don't discount how you feel somewhere.
So for you, the listener, taking this deep dive into astrocartography, what does it ultimately offer? What's the takeaway?
It means having another lens, a really unique lens, through which to view your connection to the world, to places. It can offer potential explanations for why you felt a certain pull towards some places, or maybe faced particular challenges or themes in others you've lived or visited.
Mm-hmm.
It provides a framework, a kind of cosmic map for exploring locations where you might feel more supported in achieving specific goals, whether that's finding love, advancing your career, building a stable home, finding your community, or even just understanding locations that might be destined to teach you significant lessons.
It's a really powerful way to think about geography, not just as points on a map, but in relation to your own personal energy, your own blueprint. So we've mapped the birth chart onto the globe. We've explored the significance of those lines and the four key angles, AS, IC, MC, DC. We delved into specific insights for love, looking at Venus and DC lines, those parans, the nodes,
And the relocated charts.
and the relocated charts, and touched on other important planetary energies and points like Jupiter, the Sun, Pluto, those local space lines for fine-tuning, and the crossing points.
Right. I think the big takeaway is that astrocartography is a truly fascinating tool for understanding the energetic relationship between you and the places on Earth. It connects right back to your unique cosmic blueprint.
And it's most insightful
When you weave it all together, understanding your natal chart is foundational. Then you read the messages on your astromap, and importantly, you combine that with your real-world research and your own intuition about a place. It's a dialogue between the stars, the map, and you.
So to leave you, our listener, with a final thought. Think about a place you've been, maybe somewhere you lived or just visited, where you felt an absolutely undeniable connection. Could be really positive, could have been challenging, but just strong. What cosmic story might your own astrocartography map be telling you about that specific location? Something to ponder and maybe even explore on your own map.